Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Radical Disruption. As I was trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about in today's episode, because I always want to make sure that my episodes are relevant to you as a listener. So I generally will pull from things that are going on in my business, lessons that I've learned, or maybe things that are going on in my client's business that I think would be relevant to share with you, or even questions that I see come up frequently. I was going through all of those different scenarios, the things that I normally pull episode ideas from, and I was like, there was nothing that was really sticking out to me. I wasn't like, oh yeah, I definitely want to talk about this one thing. And then randomly, I had two scenarios, two situations within 1 week happen. I think they were actually within 24 hours of each other too. That brought me to this episode topic. And so I want to talk about those two scenarios first, and then I'll dive into the meat and potatoes of this episode. But the first scenario was I was on a guest call and I was teaching training on hard selling. And this was for someone else's membership community. And at the very end of the training, I had a Q&A session. And in that Q&A, there was a person who asked a question that really, really stuck out to me. And this person, after I, of course, had gone through this training about hard selling, specifically on Instagram stories, and I was talking about all the different ways to sell and how many times a week you should sell on Instagram stories and all that, she came to me with the question of, how do I personally, like me, Maya, plan out my goal of posting on stories on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, particularly in the sense of providing value? And I just found it so interesting because I think a lot of times as creators, we think that we have to provide mega value in every single place that we are showing up in order for it to be, quote, valuable to our viewers or to our readers or whatever, makes sense in the format that you're providing that value in. And I personally do not see my story. I don't have a strategy for providing value on my Instagram stories, not in the sense of the question that she was asking. And what I mean by that is you don't always have to teach and educate on stories for your stories to be valuable. And so I don't have a strategy in the sense of like, on Mondays, I do a Q&A. On Tuesdays, I share a mini lesson. On Wednesdays, I do this. If you're doing that and that's working for you, fantastic. I have nothing against that. I'm just saying, me personally, I do not show up in that way on my Instagram stories and I don't strategize in that way because this is my opinion. Value can look different than just teaching and educating on stories. It can look like sharing your day-to-day life and having your stories be specifically designed to connect and build trust alongside your daily selling on stories. And so my goal is to utilize my stories to have people connect with me, like me as a human being, and build my personal brand and then sell daily. That is what my goal is. And that's what my focus is when it comes to strategy. I'm not focused on teaching and educating on my Instagram stories. Do I sometimes do that? 110%. But that is not my main focus because I have other areas in my business that are doing the heavy lifting of that for me. Like my Instagram feed is always value focused. My weekly newsletters, value focused. My podcast episodes, value focused. So I have these other avenues or other, formats that are doing that, teaching and educating type of value so that I don't have to be doing that in every other format. And I think that that's something that we need to get out of our heads as business owners, is that in every single location that you show up, and if I'm talking like, let's say DMs and broadcast channels and Instagram stories and podcasts and blogs and Pinterest, all these different places that you can show up. And I'm not saying you have to show up in all of them, but I think a lot of times we think that we have to provide mega value in every single place in order to give value to our viewers. And I say value with air quotes. So you can see me on YouTube if you're listening and you can't hear my air quotes. But I say value with air quotes because value can mean so many different things. But I think a lot of times when we say the word value, we think of it as education, right? Free education and like giving and giving and giving and giving in the teaching and education space, which it definitely can be. But I would, encourage you to look outside of that and think like, where are you providing that type of value, the educational type of value, so that you don't need to provide that type of value on like your Instagram stories, for example, or in your broadcast channel. It can be like those formats can actually serve a different purpose. So that was scenario one. And scenario two is actually a totally different scenario, but I'll talk to you about how these two different scenarios connect. So it was that scenario one happened first. And then about 24 hours later, someone emailed me, and it was like a reply to an email to one of my sales emails. And this person said they liked my content. It was basically word for word. They're like, hey Maya, I love your content, but I'm trying to think of exactly the wordage. It was like wordage, that's not a word, verbiage. But these emails I've been getting so many emails and it's basically spam. I'm opting out. That's what the email, it was like 3 sentences and then they signed off on the email. And I just laughed because I think it's so funny when people have to uh, they basically have to tell you that they're unfollowing you or that they are unsubscribing. It's like, okay, great, just unsubscribe. You don't need to tell me that. What I found so humorous about this is number one, the first thing is that in the year of 2024, I only ran sales during the month of November, and that's the only time. And I prepare my audience, and there's even an opt out at the very bottom of my emails that says, if you don't want any sales emails, but you still want to continue to get my newsletters, you can hit this opt out here. Anyways, I give people plenty of opportunities to stay on my email list, but not get my sales emails. And also I prepare them knowing that like they're only going to get these emails during this one time period during the year. And I'd be lying if I told you that there weren't a lot of emails that went out. I doubled the amount of emails that I normally send during my sales periods. But here's the thing. You have to, again, think about what is value and what is not value. I could have been so easily offended by that and thought to myself, okay, I need to stop sending so many sales emails. Next year, I'm not going to send out so many sales emails. I could have so easily gone in that direction. But here's the thing. I see selling as value because I know that when people get inside of my offers, their lives are going to be transformed. So I was not, I guess, deterred. I was not offended by that in any sort of way because I deeply believe in my offers. And I know that by sending out those sales emails and giving people the opportunity to join into my offers at a discounted price, like that is life changing. And I also think it's so interesting too, because I mean, everyone has their own opinions, right? But I got an email, I think it was like maybe, I don't know, like 4 hours after one of my sales ended. And this was like at the very end of all of my sales. And someone had reached out to me and they're like, I got so many emails, just in general, not just from me, but just in general, so many emails from all the sales that were going on during this time period and just all the businesses that they were subscribed to. And they're like, I missed out on seeing your emails. But they had dug through their inbox and found them because she had replied to it. And she's like, I missed on the sale. Can I have an extension? And I just thought it was so funny because here I have one person who is saying, you are sending out so many sales emails, like I'm opting out. And I'm like, okay, great, whatever. And then I have someone else who's saying, I didn't even see your emails, even though I sent out that many. And that's always the scenario that I'm thinking in my head is I want to make sure that people see these emails. And so that's why I did double the amount of emails that I sent out. But this episode is all about provide value, but don't forget to sell. Have you ever wondered how big names like Jenna Kutcher or Brendan Bouchard or I'm trying to think of any big name out there that you think about as a leader in the online space or even a leader in your niche, how can they give away so much for free and still be so successful? Well, the key is that they sell just as much as they give away free value. And this is a concept that I think I really want to drill this into your head. Value doesn't replace the need to sell. It only increases the need to sell because transformations happen in your offer through implementation, not just because people are given information and free content. Implementation equals transformation, and that happens inside of your offer. Implementation equals transformation. Wow. Implementation equals transformation. Information does not equal transformation. You don't consume someone's free tips in a reel and be like, oh my gosh, wow, that changed my life, right? That doesn't happen. That happens inside of an offer. And here's the thing too, that I think is so interesting to think about. I could give you my whole entire paid offer, whatever it might be. Let's just say I'm going to give you IG University, okay? I could give you that for free through my content on Instagram, but it still wouldn't be the same as if you bought it. And that is for a variety of reasons. 2 big ones, though, being that number one, people that pay attention. It is very rare for someone to see the same value of a free versus a paid thing and put in the same effort for something that is free versus something that is paid. So when you have skin in the game, you're more likely to take action. Here's like a very specific scenario, actually. So the people who win my giveaways, I don't do giveaways very often, actually, specifically because of this reason here that I'm about to share with you. But the people who win my giveaways, and I give them free access to something of mine, one of my offers, they rarely, and I mean actually thinking about it, I've never seen this happen. They do not have big transformations. They're not the ones that are DMing me or emailing me saying, hey, I just hit X amount of followers, I just hit X amount in revenue, or I just created this new offer. They don't have those transformations, yet people who bought the same exact offer that they got access to for free are having transformations. Why is that? Because people that pay attention. So that's number one. Number two is your offer is structured, or it should be structured. If you haven't actually thought about this, this is a little, I guess, a little side, not side tangent even, just like a side note. You should definitely think about this. But your offer should be structured to get results. Whereas if I were to, again, package IG University into a bunch of posts on my Instagram feed and give it to you for free, if I were to give you the information inside IG University for free through my free content, whether that's a podcast episode or an email or my feed content, whatever it might be, even if it had the same exact information in it, it's not going to be organized in a way that is going to bring you results or bring you to results, right? So the structure of having a paid offer where things are, again, structured in a way that's designed to get you results, that's so key. Now, this all leads me to my last thought on this topic of value, which is a very interesting concept to play around with. I kind of mentioned this, but I really just want to bring this to your attention here. Why is selling not value? I actually looked up the definitions of value before I hopped on this episode. Two of the definitions, there's of course a bunch of definitions, which how is that even possible that there's 50 different definitions for the same word? No matter what word you look up, I don't know. Anyways, but there's two definitions. Two, I guess, that really stuck out to me. Number one, again, these are definitions of the word value. Consider someone or something to be important or beneficial or have a high opinion of. Or the other definition is one's judgment of what is important in life. Interesting. Think about that in the sense of value. Or sorry, in the sense of selling. That's what I mean. Yeah, that is in the sense of value because that's literally the definition of value. But think about that in the sense of selling, right? So consider someone or something, which in this case would be selling, to be important or beneficial. So do you see selling as important or beneficial, right? Or one's judgment of what is important in life. Again, that ties back into what I was saying earlier, where I wasn't offended by that email where someone was saying, oh, I'm going to opt out because this is like spam, right? No. I'm like, I don't care. Opt out. Like, I know that my offers are changing people's lives and I have to sell in order to get people into my offers, right? So what is important in life? To me, impact. I know that my offers make the greatest amount of impact, so I'm going to sell. Interesting concept to think about there. If you believe that, if you believe those things, that, selling is of value and it's important in life, and hopefully you know that your offer can change lives. And if you don't know that, then you need to do some digging because you need to know that so deeply. But if you know that your offer can change lives, why would that not be value? And therefore, why would selling not be value? In the online space, we've been made to believe that value equals free information or free education, but that's not always the case. There's also value for you and for your audience when you sell your offer. So all this to say, this episode is just simply here to remind you that you need to sell, and you do not need to provide free educational value in every single place that you show up and every single time that you show up in those places in order for you to impact and make the most amount of benefit to your community and to your audience. Sharing free value also doesn't replace the need to sell. It only increases your need to sell because information does not equal transformation. I was going to say transformation. Implementation equals transformation, and that happens inside of your offer. So your free value often is going to be what brings people in, right? It's going to bring people into your world. It's going to give you that visibility. Important. It's very, very, very important. It plays a role in your strategy. I'm not saying it's not important, but it doesn't replace the need to sell. You can provide all the free value in the world, but your impact is going to be the biggest when you sell, because your offer is where lives are changed. So make sure that you are spending equal amount of time selling your offer as you do creating free value content.